It's gorgeous out. Let's pop some ducks.
This is the Upduck Podcast, a blend of upland and waterfowl hunting. Tune in as your hosts, Tyler Beaton, Jeff Ludicky, Matt Jeske, chat about training dogs and share their bird hunting stories, tactics, and strategies.
Fancy here. We're getting fancy. We're going to use the transcript to write
Just
AI.
saves it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saves you some time.
Write a description. Use AI to write a podcast description for this one. So, Matt Jeske, what's happened tonight, bud?
Not too much. Not too much.
Yeah. No Jeff tonight.
Nope.
Thank goodness.
He's heading to what? Hunt the largest upland bird, as he would say.
Yes. Yeah. I haven't heard anything from, and like zero updates from him.
No, I assume he was just driving up today. So
I got the impression he was leaving in the morning, but maybe I got that.
Well, if that's the case, then he probably hasn't killed a turkey yet. So
yes. I haven't gotten any video. I got nothing from him.
No.
So, he's been radio silent.
Yeah,
so,
maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. Is a turkey an upland bird?
That's what he says. I believe that's his claim.
That's his claim. But what do you think, though?
No.
I don't
think so.
I would agree. I'm not really. I don't see a turkey as an upland bird, but that's just You think he's going to listen to this and come back and start?
Yeah, he'll listen probably after.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I also hear you're giving away some goose shells too.
I am. I dug them out of my garage, so I don't know when I'm going to be home next, but they're all yours for training.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, all right.
It was that or the trash. So I'm
okay.
If you want them, I'll keep them.
I will gladly take the goose shells.
Yeah, they were gifted to me, and I just don't need them in my garage. I was trying to clear out stuff and get the lawnmower out, and it's got to go.
How many shells do you have?
Nah, it's probably like a dozen, maybe. Just like larger, older.
Yes.
Perfect for training shells. Yep.
Perfect for training shells and silos. That sounds like a great combo for it.
Yeah, should be good.
So you'll have to let me know. We can coordinate offline here when you are coming through. And
I was swing through the Yukon for something like last week, Easter weekend. Yeah, I stopped at Jeff's house, picked up my hats. Yep.
Or curveball here. We could just meet at the West Allis Training Kennel Club.
Oh, that's true.
We could meet there. You could show me how to set up the shells for training, and then we'll set up or we'll run some marks with our dogs and call it good.
Got it. Yeah, that'll work too.
That'll work.
Yeah.
All right. We do have a guest tonight, folks. Or today or morning or whenever you actually listen to this. His name is Jake Perry. He is a professional guide up in the UP and in northern Wisconsin. And Matt and I are very excited to learn the ins and outs from him about grouse hunting and timberdoodle hunting. So, Jake, welcome to the Upduck Podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I just wanted to really quick correct, though. I'm not a licensed guide in Wisconsin, just Michigan.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yes. Yep.
It's okay. I don't want the green jeans coming after me, man.
Okay. Sorry about that. Good correction. All right. Just in Michigan. Fair enough. Okay. So give us the lowdown. Where are you? So you're in Michigan. Where are you located in Michigan? And just tell us a little bit more about yourself. Like, what do you do? Do you guide full time? Is that something you do on the side? How does your life look with dogs and family?
So,
and everything else?
I live in Upper Peninsula, Michigan. For people that don't know, it's the peninsula that's some people would argue should be a part of Wisconsin, but it got lost in the war for Toledo way back in the day. But I live in the Upper Peninsula. We call it God's country. It's beautiful. Live pretty remote up here. Live on the border of Marquette and Dickinson County. Some acreage on the river right here. And it's just a little slice of heaven. I've got, yard grouse, moose come through my yard. We've had everything come through. I love it. And I own and operate Superior Upland. We're a full-time guiding business. In the fall, we specialize in rough grouse and woodcock hunts. And we do everything from all-inclusive to day rates. And we hunt exclusively with pointers. So I've got Gordon setters, English setters, German short hair. That's kind of what we do. So.
Okay. I could ask a question about like 18 different things that you just said.
Go ahead, fire away.
So have you? Let's go back. Have you always lived in the UP and in Michigan, or did you migrate there? And like, when did you get into hunting?
So my dad's family is all from up here. So we've got like over 100 years of family tradition up here. I grew up coming up to deer camp up here. I grew up downstate Lower Michigan, but I spent summers and falls with my grandfather up here. Always had family property up here. So I've been bird hunting, deer hunting up here, but the deer hunting thing is something that's definitely fallen by the wayside up here lately, and it's been a lot more bird hunting. So my family deer camp kind of became a bird camp and went from there. So, but I've been hunting up here since I think my first deer camp, I was 2 years old up here. So, and it's kind of funny the way that things worked out. I live like 4 miles from my family deer camp right now.
That's
So
pretty cool.
yeah, it's funny how things work out.
That is. So do you host like bird camp then, or does everybody go to like the cabin for deer camp?
So the thing that we've done in the past, we've done everything in terms of like grouse camp, from like having people stay at my house to renting out a place. To my favorite one that we ever did was we took and camped out on the edge of the Escanaba River, and we were just hard and intense, and just waking up in the morning, and we somehow got a Blackstone out there, and we're cooking breakfasts, and then you go out and you hunt all day, and breakfast is the only meal you really eat, because when you're grouse hunting, you're just going all day. And that was probably my favorite one we ever did. Was right along the edge of the Escanaba River, kind of having it like a DIY, backwoods, tent camping kind of deal. We did that 4 years ago. But for the most part, we'll take now that I have my place up here, we call it the musical chairs of people that come in. I had 20 different people come stay out of my basement last year during bird season. So those are just friends. Those aren't people I'm actually guiding. Those are just friends that take a message me. And some of them I've actually never met before. It's just like this, like on social media, start talking to people like, yeah, come out, come hunting, man. And so we had like 20, it was 20 different people last year that came through my basement last year. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I mean, Matt, just a couple episodes ago, we were talking about just the power of social media, right?
Yeah.
And like how, I mean, you and I met through social media essentially in hunt tests.
Yeah.
Jeff, same thing. The guide we went to down in Oklahoma last year, social media. I mean, just social media. It's crazy the relationships that you can form on social media without actually meeting people in person. So that's pretty awesome. Dang, how did you get into guiding?
I kind of was looking at like the overall structure of how things are up here, and one of the things that I really noticed, I started getting really big into going out and doing mentored hunts for different organizations and doing that stuff. And I was looking at the resource up here, and at the time, you didn't have to be a licensed commercial guide with the state of Michigan to guide for small game. It was one of those things where certain things that were happening up here, there weren't proper stewards of the resource. People weren't appreciating it, and people weren't giving a quality experience for necessarily of what they were charging people. So I wanted to take in and be a professional force moving forward as the state shifted its guiding laws, if that makes sense. So I wanted to take and be a professional resource that wasn't judgmental, that, your average guy could come out and have a good time, and also learn about the resource and learn to appreciate it and be able to take that to other places. So that was kind of what drew me to guiding. Was I've always been a bird hunter. I've always been an outdoorsman, always been an angler. And I know the resource that we have in terms of birds up here. I mean, there's a lot of places to go hunt rough grouse, but there's just something about the UP and the topography and the people and the sheer amount of wild birds that we have, that I knew that in the overall scope of things, the guiding was going to be able to set up for me to be able to advocate for the resource better, if that makes sense. And I knew it was a step I had to take to be able to do that. So
explain that to me. Like how does that help you become a better advocate?
I think when, people get out and social media is great, right? But I think when you get out and you have an actual real life experience with someone, I mean, that one experience of someone learning how to do something the right way. I'm going to take and switch gears a little bit, but I had a buddy that I taught how to salmon fish a couple years ago. And I took him out, taught him how to do everything, taught him how to tie flies, taught him how to set everything up, fishing on the river. And this year he had 20 people out doing a family salmon camp downstate on the river where they rented cabins and came into this area, and he was showing everybody how to fish. And so like the guiding aspect of things is if I have someone that comes in, because most of my clients are first time grouse hunters, they're from, Virginia, North Carolina, that sort of stuff where the birds just aren't there anymore. I get them in, I get them to have a great experience, and it's word of mouth from there, and it snowballs, right? We learn how to do things the right way. We educate people, and it's able to take and put the resource in a more favorable light. And then in turn, that gives me the basis of like, hey, I'm able to take and influence and make sure that these animals and the resources being preserved by how I'm teaching people to do things the right way, if that makes sense. Not going along and road blasting birds and doing all that stuff, like teaching them how to work it and why we're doing it and the cover and what kind of, habitat these animals need. And it's just, I think that's what really, is going to be the way that Superior Upland is going to be able to transform in the future, is to be able to advocate for the resources in our area. So
with that, like you'd mentioned that you just came home, I think, from a Rough Grouse Society meeting this evening, and like, you're working with that organization? Are you working with, or how are you working with that organization? Are you working with the state, like from a bigger picture view of that, advocating and working with the resource?
So right now, I'm just helping out with the local chapter. They just asked me to come on board. In the past, I used to do the guided mentor hunts for the National Rough Grouse Camp in Wisconsin. I used to do that, but I'm trying to take and just get things more galvanized in our area. There's not a lot of structure, and I'm trying to just get everybody together. And there are some really, really good young people in our area, and they're really trying to get things together. And we just need to take it all band together and get that structure in place. In terms of statewide stuff, I don't have anything statewide, but I've been doing a lot of local stuff. Been sponsoring with my business. I sponsored the local buck contest for the high school that I work at this year. Big buck contest. I take in one of my dogs is a certified therapy animal, so I take him in on Fridays. We have Gordy Fridays, so the kids get to get around a bird dog and see stuff like that. So just trying to get out and talk to people in settings and get them around bird dogs and get them around talking about the resources, what we've been geared on right now. The 5-year plan would be to start working with state agencies and start figuring out how to do that. So
sure. No, that's cool. Interesting.
When did you start? Like, when did you start guiding? How long ago was that?
So it will be coming up on 3.5 years ago commercially. Okay. So three years ago commercially. Yep.
Okay.
And how long is that season? Like rough grouse? How long are you guiding for, I guess?
We have a very long season. I can't justify. So here's the thing: the UP gets more snow than just about anywhere in the whole United States. So for me, I love going out and running my dogs in the snow and doing all that stuff, but I can't justify selling a hunt to someone and doing that, right?
Yeah.
Selling a guy to the hunt and putting them through that. And I'm sure there are some people that'd love to throw on snowshoes and take dogs out and get out in there in the conifer stands and stuff. But we primarily guide from September. So the season starts September 15th and then it ends January 1st. I don't take and guide the first couple weeks of September because it's usually too hot. But I'll take and we usually will guide from about September 28th through the whole month of October, maybe the first week of November, and then we shut things down.
Okay.
So
awesome.
That's a short and I'm sure very action filled season.
It is. It is very, very, very fast paced. So we get a hell of a migration too of woodcock. So that from about October 10th on, it can just be a riot in the woods. So
that man, you've said like so many things that I want to go down different rabbit holes, and I'm trying to stay on task here. All right, so from like a guided hunt standpoint, like what, I didn't actually know that there were guided rough grouse and woodcock hunts.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious.
What's that look like? What's the offering? Where do you stay? Like the whole package. If me and Tyler were interested, or any of these people are coming from across the U.S., what's that look like? What are your offerings and how's that
So
work?
we've got the ability to go like all inclusive where I've got a couple buddies that own lodges and we put people up and you're living very modern. You're going to have access to a shower, to all that stuff. Most of them have kitchens included in them. And you're going to have access to all the amenities you have at home. We have the ability to do that. We supply your meals the whole time. I've got a big background of food. I'm a big dude. I love eating. So I make sure people eat good while they're here. I'm not serving you mac and cheese. We're going to be eating steaks and prime ribs and smoked stuff. And so I try and make sure that people eat good. And I've been described, I guess, as a working man's camp is what people call it. So we don't really cater to any one person. We're just all there having a good time. All my clients are and my guides. And so we have the ability to go all inclusive in that aspect of things. And then the thing that really sets us apart is we allow people to bring their own dogs and run them under the supervision of our guides. So if you have a young dog, I know, right? So like we are guys that we're not judgmental, and I'm a firm believer that my dogs are trained a certain way, right? My dogs are going to run how they're going to run regardless of how they're going to run. I have no problem throwing one of my dogs on the ground with someone else's dog. Because I know my dog all year trains to get to that point. I know he's going to do what he's supposed to do when he's in the field. So we allow people to bring their own dogs, and we promise contacts, right? It's difficult for a dog that's maybe seen one or two grouse, so they're living the Appalachians their whole life to come up and get it. But we promise contacts, and then it comes down to you shooting. So what we tell people is anywhere from 20 to 25 grouse contacts a day, and about the same for woodcock is what we tell people. So
that's many times higher than I was expecting.
And I like to under promise and over deliver, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's been time that the lowest number that we had this year in terms of contacts was 23 in a day for grouse. That was the lowest one that I had on my official log. I'm not going to tell you guys what the most we had was because I don't even want to say the number out loud. But it was with my best. If my buddy Justin Madron listens into this, Justin knows. My buddy Bodie knows. They came up from Virginia. We walked into a crabapple thicket at the right time of the year, and it seemed like every bird in 2 square miles was in there. So, but yeah, 20 to 25 is what we tell people, and then we also offer the ability to use our dogs exclusively for people that don't. And everything that we do is priced at a 2-person rate. So we always price it at a 2-person rate. We like to see people bring someone with them. And all of our guides are licensed state of Michigan guides. So we take pride on that, making sure that we're all certified up to date. And it's just a good time. We just love what we do. We love getting people out in the resource, teaching them maybe some things they don't know about identifying grouse habitat and where to go hunting, and having some decent dog work and hopefully you get some decent shooting too. But
how many guides do you have working for you? And follow-up question, what's the day like? Is it a full day starting? Like, I don't know. Is it like pheasants? Is there a time it starts that's specific and you go the whole day, or what's that look like?
I don't believe in guiding half days on people. I feel like if someone's coming all the way up here to go hunting, we're going to hunt all day if they want to hunt all day.
Sure.
So we'll normally hunt like a morning set. Usually birds. So the thing about grouse is that they can't like dry themselves normally. So if they get down too early in the morning on the doing stuff and get so wet, they can't fly. So we normally don't go out for grouse until like 9:30 in the morning is when we'll get out when they're hopping down to start feeding. We'll hunt until around noon, usually have a field lunch. One of our guides will take and have a field lunch there. And then we'll hunt that back half of the afternoon, come back, have dinner, hang out by the fire. And then this upcoming year, I'm going to have 3 guides working for me this upcoming year. Okay. That doesn't mean that they'll always be working though. So right. Yeah, but I have 3 people that'll be on staff.
Just scheduling dependent, however that comes out.
Yep.
Cool.
I'm going to make a comment. The working man's camp, that is like right up my alley.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
That's what we've been kind of branded on for people that have come up, is that we're just average people that like having a good time, getting out and hunting birds. And we really pride ourselves on having good dog work. That's like, we love having good dog work. So
we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna get there. I'm trying. I've got a bunch of other questions I want to ask. I'm sure Matt and I are thinking along the same thing.
Yeah.
So, right, if someone has never done a rough grouse or a woodcock hunt, like how much walking are they doing? What are we walking through? Like, what kind of habitat are we walking through? Am I getting hit in the face by stuff? Am I walking, like the logging trails? Like, what does that actually look like?
So you can take and cater it depending on who. That's the thing that we always ask, that people are straightforward about their in shape ability and how old they are and what they can take and do. And you guys know that, right? But I've got an old timer up here, and he's my best friend, but he's like in his 70s, and he's an old retired African PH. And he always says, you're not brook trout fishing or grouse hunting unless you're bleeding, right? So like you're gonna get whacked by something, you're gonna get poked by something eventually, you're gonna have a tree branch hit you. I mean, that's part of grouse hunting. Very rarely do they just sit up off a trail that you can very easily walk down. If you do enough scouting and enough looking, you can find spots like that for older individuals, for people that have trouble getting around. But for the most part, I try and tell people that they should be ready to hike anywhere from, it depends. Like if I get some young guys and they want to hike 13 miles or 14 miles in a day, we'll go do it. Right. But if I get some older gentlemen, usually 4 to 5 is what I tell them to be ready for. Most of our habitat up here, it's a mixture of a lot of aspen, hazel undergrowth. You'll have some fruit trees mixed in, but the thing about grouse is that they are an extremely variable bird. They can eat just about anything, and they can survive just about anywhere up here. So you could be walking through something you'd say would never be rough grouse habitat, and all of a sudden have one kick up. Right. So I've never learned to call anything not rough grouse habitat, but for the most part, they stick to those edges between, you have different age classes, and they'll be in those transition areas between those different age classes of trees, is what I tell people. So like you might be walking in stuff that seems like it's a little bit more wide open. You might be walking in stuff that's a little bit more thick. It just kind of depends on where you're at in the year and the cover itself. Right. So.
Sure.
Fascinating. What kind of clothing do you recommend?
So I wear all stuff from Duck Camp is what I wear. They've got some pretty good stuff. I'm a bigger dude, and they've got a waistband and stuff like that fits me. Like I told you guys before we started, I used to wrestle in college, so I'm a little bit beefier dude, and all their stuff fits me really well. Their brush pants held up really well. But you got to have a nice pair of brush pants, because we do have blackberries, we do have briars, like we have stuff that will shred your legs. And then for the most part, I tell people, light long sleeve shirts are always good too, because you want to try and keep, the ticks and all the other stuff off you as well. So I wear all Duck Camp stuff, and it's worked out really well for me so far. I mean, I beat it up last year. Like I told them I was going to beat it up, and I did, and it held up. So.
It's good. Sure. That's good to know. Right. I mean, I'm thinking what I'm doing is I'm placing myself, right? I'm basically, what do I need?
Oh, okay.
I'm going up there. Like, that's what I'm thinking about here. Right.
Okay. Yeah. You need a good pair of boots, man. Like that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, you need a pair of boots, you need a pair of Crispies, you need something that's a good pair of boots. I bought a pair, and I'm not going to say the brand, but I bought a pair last year that I thought were going to be awesome. And I talked to a sales rep at one of the trade shows that we went to, and I was like geared up. I'm like, okay, these feel good. They fell apart in 5 days, right? 5 days of hardcore hiking. Yeah, I was not impressed. So I went back to the good old Crispies and, pounding out on those. And so like definitely need a good pair of hiking boots is what I tell people. Something that is most likely waterproof, because you are if you're hunting timber doodles, you're gonna be on some squishy ground. You're gonna be on the edges of some cedar swamps and some tag alders there, and wet feet are horrible to have to do when you're hunting a bird that you've got to be walking for, right? You're going to need a good pair of brush pants. Depending on the time of the year, dress in layers accordingly, and then have a vest system to not only support you, but to support your dog. That's huge. You got to be able to support your dog. So when I'm in the woods, I carry more stuff to support that animal than I do to support myself. So those are the 3 things that I really talk to people about. I mean, we could get into guns and shot sizes and all that stuff, but I mean, what it comes down to is being able to support yourself and support your dog, and that's what's going to make a successful trip to the Northwoods.
So what vest system are you running? You can give us
so right now I've got my buddy owns High Plains Gear. He's based out of Wyoming, and I run his vest system. It's actually easier for me as a guide too, because he makes, it's called Desert Hunter, and it's a belt system that has bags on it, and I can fit just about everything I need for a day of guiding on that belt and not have to wear like shoulder straps and the whole 9 yards. And so that's a really nice little piece of equipment that he has. So
okay, I gotta go find that.
yeah, it's great for training too, man. It's absolutely great for training because it's got snap closed bags on it, so I can stick live pigeons and chuckers back there and reach back and grab them as I need them.
Nice. That's cool.
That's nice. That's really nice. Yeah. What brand do I wear again, Matt? I can't remember the name.
Oh, I'm spacing on it.
I know. I'll get it for Final Rise.
That's it.
Final Rise. Yeah.
Matt's a great guy.
Yeah. Love it. It's been great. I got it about 5 years too late because I was doing some guiding at a local game farm, and it would have been amazing for that. But yeah, I'll definitely shoot me. We'll connect after. I'll be curious to check out your buddy's company and check it out a little bit more.
Yeah, he's good stuff. Reese Hoggins' his name, and he's a ex-military retirement, or he's an ex-military guy, and it's all modular, like kind of designed like military, how he has to have his systems, and it fits good, man. And I like it, and he's a good dude, so I support him because he's always been a good dude. I mean, he's a guy where I invited him to go to the National Rough Grouse Camp in Wisconsin, and no questions asked, drove 15 hours to come help mentor people.
That's cool.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah, he's a great human being, man. So
yeah, I found it. Looks nice. It looks
awesome. I found it too.
Yeah,
got a great belt system.
Yeah,
makes a huge difference. Okay. What do you carry for your dogs?
So I carry everything. So this is a big thing. If you're coming to the Northwoods, you need to carry a trauma kit. And so I tell people, you don't know, especially if you're coming from the plains or coming from down south, like there's sticks and all kinds of stuff, and you don't know what your dog's going to do. They're a dog. If they smell their first grouse for the first time, they're going to be geared up. So you need to have everything ready, from saline to flush eyes or wounds, tourniquets. I've been there where I've had dogs that have gotten injured and I've taken them out. So I would definitely have a trauma kit. Paradigm makes a good one for your dogs. And then I carry a ton of water. Ton of water, especially because, if we're hiking all day, like they're going to need water. And I've got Gordon setters, and the Gordons will drink as much water as you give them. So I always make sure I have extra. My one Gordon, Gordy, he'll literally take and look at other people that have water on their belt, and he'll just like look at their water belt, like, "Hey, you gonna give me some?" Because I know my dad won't. So yeah, so tons of water, trauma kit. And also anything that you might have to deal with. I usually carry a couple booties in case someone gets their feet rubbed on some gravel or something like that. So,
okay.
How many dogs are you running on a trip day?
So right now, like at a time, or in
at a time.
I usually like to run one dog at a time.
Oh, okay.
If I've got a client, I'll run my dog and another dog. I like being able to save. I learned my lesson 3 years ago of overrunning dogs, and I had to go back to like my coaching experience from being an athlete and going, "Hey, we have a depth chart. We've got to take and run a certain dog here."
I was going to ask that because you were talking about 13 to 15 miles in like the UP, and I didn't know what that, how many dogs are you cycling through in a 13 or 15 mile day?
I'd probably do three dogs.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably do 3 dogs in a day like that to keep everybody fresh and not beat up. Obviously, there's certain covers that you'd want to turn certain dogs loose in, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because even though I've got dogs and I love them all, like there are some that are better than others.
Mm-hmm.
So I just the way you got to put it, but every single one of them is good at a different thing, though. So you got to judge it and go from there. But so I usually run 1, sometimes 2. I've got 2 dogs that are very similar in how they hunt, and I could run them together, but I could never run my short hair with my Gordons. He runs too big, too hard, too fast.
Yeah.
My Gordons are more 60-yard dogs. 60 to 80 yard dogs and working really, really thoroughly.
Mhm.
And my short hairs like get out and go find, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, for sure.
When you're cycling dogs out like that, are you able to run them again the next day? They're able to recover and run the next day?
yeah, yep. So we feed Eukanuba at my house, then I take and make sure all my dogs are supplemented. And when they come home, I mean, they get more care than I do when they come home. Like if someone's got something going on, we're making sure that they're getting all taken care of. If they're, all dirty, they're getting a bath, they're getting taken care of. I could sprain my ankle and I'd still be limping on it for a couple of days. Like if one of them's hurt or twinged up, like we're making sure they get the most care they can and going from there. So, but for the most part, as long as everybody's staying healthy and keeping weight on, we can usually run back-to-back days. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt, how do you know if someone is a dog guy?
Well,
there's a number of ways. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Jake just described some of it, right? When your
caring
dog's take
for his dog more than himself, for sure, is the number one.
Go. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, I tell people, my dog takes more vitamins and supplements than I do.
Oh, 100%, man. Like you'd never see me ever buy $100 worth of groceries, buy $100 bag of dog food. Done. You know what I'm saying? It's like won't even argue, man. It's always been that way. There was a time period where me and my fiance, when we were way back in like 1920 range, we had 2 labs at the time, and we were just broke college kids, right? And we were eating grilled cheeses, and our dogs are eating $100 bags of dog food, right? We've never been ones to never been ones to sacrifice the dog's well-being. Like we're all about the dogs, man.
Yeah,
that's great. It's awesome. How many dogs do you own
right now?
Right now.
7. I've got 7 right now. Soon to be 8, but I've got a kennel at my house, so it works out pretty well. I've got a 40 by 80 barn that's poured concrete floors and super nice. So for the most part, we'll take and cycle the dogs throughout there. Everybody still lives in and out of the house, but there might be some days where someone's living out there and they might be coming in the house in different days. And then, like I said, we just had a little miracle baby, so we're still trying to figure out how that works into the equation and go from there. We weren't expecting to have a kid when we started doing all this, and now we've got a kid. So
you've got a very young baby, 7 dogs, and another dog on the way.
Yeah, I'll be getting another Gordon in July. So
that's I'm just taking that in right now. I have 2 dogs and 2 children, and that's a lot. You're a brave soul, Jake. All I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna tell you though, right now, I have to give credit to my better half though. She's just as much into it as I am. So I couldn't do it. Does that make sense? Like I couldn't do it by myself. She's been awesome. And you know how sometimes, okay, so here's what I'm going to say to you. You know how sometimes people can be like weird dog people? Does that make sense? Yeah. So like, Kate and me are just like 2 normal people that ended up somehow with a pile of dogs, and she's just as much into it as I am. And when people meet us on the street, they'd never guess. And we tell them, yeah, we got 7 dogs. And they're like, what? And we're like, yeah, no, that's what we got. We got 7 dogs. And but she's been just a rock and everything. And she's really big on the care of the dogs. Like she loves giving the baths. She loves taking and playing fetch with them in the morning. We live on the river, so she loves taking them down for swimming in the river and all that stuff. And I love training dogs and running dogs on birds. So it's like a perfect union. I couldn't do it without her, man. I'd go crazy. I don't think I could do more than 2 dogs a vet and have Kate. So
it's for people that don't like. That's a lot of mouths to feed. That's a lot of poop to clean up. That's a lot of dogs to keep clean. Like you just spend so much time taking care of dogs that it can wear you down.
Yeah. Yep. And I think the biggest thing is you got to figure out ways to use your energy in doing all that stuff the most efficient as possible, or it will wear you out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you got to think like if I've got 7 dogs and they're all elite athletes essentially, right? Like they're all guiding dogs. Like they all go out and they hunt all day if you let them. Mm-hmm. they got to get ran in the off season. They've got to get all that stuff. So you got to take 2.5, 3 hours out of your day every day. You got to get up at 4 a.m. So it's a different lifestyle.
It is.
How'd you get here? You talked about growing up and going to deer camp at like 2 years old. Did you grow up with dogs? And when you guys started bird hunting more, or how'd you get here with 7 dogs?
Both my grandfathers had both my grandfathers bird hunted and were avid. And my one grandfather, my papa, he had labs and he trained his own labs. And he started duck hunting back when there was a lottery for him in the state of Michigan, like where you had to sit and watch and see if you got pulled to go hunt, right?
Sure.
So he was a huge duck hunter, big in Ducks Unlimited, the whole 9 yards. That's where I got around it. I was always a flusher retriever guy. We always had labs. And I cursed my dad for this, but my dad's he's a police officer at the Oak County Sheriff's Office. And when I was like, I want to say I was like 8 or 9 years old, my dad came home with a Weimaraner puppy that they found on the side of the road that they found. And I had that dog and I was teaching him to sit, and he had, what I figured what happened was that he had a hernia on him, right? And I think that a breeder or someone must have seen a hernia and just let him go, and he got found on the side of the road, right? I trained that dog, taught him how to do stuff, and my dad ended up getting rid of him because we had labs at the time, right? And I cursed my dad. I say, Dad, you know the reason why I got all these pointing dogs now, right? He goes, what? I was like, you gave me like an abandonment issue where like I've got to have every single pointing dog I can get my hands on now, And yeah, his name was Duke. I'll never forget that dog. He was a good little puppy, and I did all of his training and stuff. That was my first real bird dog that I trained, and yeah, my dad got rid of him, and so gave him away after he was all trained to another person that worked at the department. So.
It burned a hole in your memory. I can tell. That still stings.
Dude, it still stings. It's deep in my soul, man.
Huh.
So, but yeah, my grandfather was really the one that I got to watch work dogs, and yeah, he was just a good dude, man. He was a great guy, and loved duck hunting, loved pheasant hunting, and he did a little bit of grouse hunting, but not a ton. And but my other grandfather loved grouse hunting. That was his favorite thing to do besides deer hunt. So like, he didn't hunt very often with the dog, which is very common in the UP. There's a lot of people that will just walk and shoot them with 22s and stuff like that, and to each their own. And that's kind of how my grandfather was, and kind of how I got started with it. But the second that I saw someone actually working them with a dog, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So,
yeah.
So, but I need to go back because that makes sense. I understand that. However, there's a gap in this story. Okay. You just talked about being 19 and 20 with your fiance, right?
Yeah.
Eating grilled cheese, feeding your dogs very expensive food. And those 2 dogs were labs.
Yeah.
So how did we go from 2 labs at 19, 20? I don't know how old you are now.
Almost 29.
Almost 29. So like, we'll just say like, from 10 years, how did we go from living with 2 labs and owning 2 labs to I own 7 pointing dogs? That's quite the transition in a decade.
Yeah, I think that, getting out and going hunting with them and realizing that like I loved rough grouse hunting. It's just tough to do with the flushing dog. They can burn themselves out in the thick cover.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got our first pointer, and that was Bear. And he's a German Shorthair, the one that I've alluded to a couple times. He was a COVID puppy. And the dude is just a physical freak, and going out and hunting with him a couple times. I mean, he is, there's no other way to describe him. He's 70 pounds and not an ounce of fat on him. Right. And can just run like a horse. But that was my first real experience of hunting with my own pointing dog. And it just was game changing from there. And then realizing where I wanted to go with my business and doing things, I realized that I needed to have that dog power to make that work, if that makes sense. I learned a lesson with Bear. Like, Bear got tweaked up a little bit, and I only had another dog at the time, and I had to run my one dog, right? And so I learned, like, in order to take and make sure that everybody can make it through a season, I've got to have the dog power to be able to do that. And that means having 6 to 7 dogs. So
how'd you go from that German Shorthair to Gordon's? Like, I know what they are. A lot of people maybe listening at least have heard of them, but outside of the the dog world, a lot of people don't know what a Gordon setter is, nor not exactly one you see around that often. So how'd you get there?
Crazy. That's another story. My honestly, I was a big German short hair guy. Like, I thought they were the coolest thing ever, right? And I saw a lady that posted online that she needed training birds up here for training her dog, and she posted in one of the bird hunting pages up here in the UP. And these dudes were being jerks to her online. Just jerks. Like, you think you're gonna come up here and train dogs? Blah 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 blah. You know, people are saying backyard trainers, and so I privately messaged her because I also own a preserve. So I own a preserve up here, and I messaged her and said, "Hey, I have chuckers. I don't have pigeons, but I have chuckers. I can run you some chuckers." I said, "I won't even charge them." You know, she goes, "No, I'll pay for them." Well, I get over, I meet her. I just charged her wholesale for them. I think I gave her 3 birds for, I think it was like $15 or something. And we, said, "Hey, whatever, hope they work out for you," and parted ways. And her name is Debbie Peterson, phenomenal human being. So she called me in December and said, "Hey, my Gordon has puppies on, I started a litter and there's puppies on the ground. I, have one kind of said, do you want to pick a puppy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to pick a puppy." Well, come to find out that I didn't know this about the time about Debbie, right? Debbie guides at Pine Ridge Grouse Camp, which is like the premier place to go hunt grouse in the United States. She does everything right. She's got dogs with amazing pedigrees. And I got into it and I got Gordy, and dude came out of the box at 4 months old and was pointing wild birds in my yard. It's like just the sniffer and the off switch they have. I will never own anything other than a Gordon. Kate can get what she wants to get. That's fine, but I will always have Gordons. They're just a perfect mix of being goofy and funny and sensitive, but they just love hunting birds and they have an off switch. They were developed in Scotland at the Gordon Castle, and they were used as the first original grouse dog. They were bred to hunt red grouse, and then they also used them as nannies for kids.
Oh.
So they have an incredible off switch and just love hanging out with people, but they will hunt all day as well. And just their nose and how they know how to give spacing, man, they're just the ultimate dog for me. The black and tans are the way to go for me, man.
Because I don't know a lot about them. Is the breed pretty strong here as far as, like, I know that, over the history of like setters and stuff, there's been quite a few problems, like, in the United States and things, of breeding programs and kind of like dilution. Is the Gordon setter a pretty strong breed, or is it a really small, like you'd have to find that field dog that you're looking for? And obviously I'd say you lucked out, in that department, but anybody else, like, is it hard to find a dog like that?
To get a field-bred dog like I did, yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you, I stumbled into it, right?
Yeah.
Like, stumbled into getting one from just about as good a lines as you can find.
Yeah.
Debbie's stud dog is Stony Brook on the one side, which is Stephen Faust. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he's just some people have described him as the best rough grouse woodcock guide in the United States. He has superbly trained dogs, and that's where Gordy's dad Bogey is out of. And but in terms of like the breed itself, it's a very rare breed. They used to be extremely popular, them and English.
No.
And but when World War II happened, you had a bunch of guys that went over to Europe, and these were your peanut butter and jelly sandwich M1 Grand type guys, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they went over there, and there were all those dogs that had the short hair and didn't need combing out after they were done hunting, and they didn't really care if the dog was living in the house or not, and they just wanted a good hunting dog. And that's when you started seeing the beginnings of the short hairs and stuff coming back over after World War II and becoming popular over here. And the setters kind of, I don't want to say they went by the wayside, but they weren't as popular anymore.
Sure.
And nowadays, what we're seeing now is that the setters are gaining a lot of popularity and very quick. And it's because they are very, very, very good in-house dogs. Like they have an off switch. They're good with kids. You can go out and hunt with them. They can be part of the family and go hunting, right? So the Gordons themselves, they struggled a lot from bloodlines. They got pretty narrowed down, especially in the field-bred lines. But Debbie and a group of people that have gotten together, they're very big on revitalizing the field-bred program of them. They go over to Europe. They import dogs. They run all.
That was my next question. If there was a
Yep.
strong like UK presence and dogs are imported and things like that still.
Yeah, there's a lot in the UK, but also in like I've been eyeing going over to there's a kennel in Serbia that I've been looking at. There's Sweden is really big on the setters. So Norway is big on setters. So there's still a lot of good dogs over in Europe, especially with the setters. But yeah, they're doing everything right. They're trying to bring new blood over. They test for everything. A big problem with the Gordons has been PRA, which deals with their retinas and stuff like that, and it can cause blindness. So they're trying to breed dogs to completely get that PRA phenotype out of that genetic code. So they're really trying to do everything right, man.
Oh, that's good to hear.
It's interesting you bring that up too. I have a friend who I train with, much older gentleman who British lab guy, like has a dog, one of the original Southern Oak dogs before Southern Oak became this huge machine that it is now.
My sister owns a Southern Oak dog.
This dog's pedigree, like I sent this to someone we had on who was a British lab guy, and he had a conversation about using this guy's dog as a stud dog, and he said, "Where did you get this dog? This pedigree is nutso." But that's the background of it. The point of this story is, like talking to my friend, he's showing me all the health tests that this dog went through, and it is like 2 pages of like line by line by line by line. Like their testing for their dogs overseas seems like just at a different level compared to what we do in the States.
You know, and I think it goes over too is that, you know, in the States you have a lot more people that I don't know what the kind of vibe, you know, but there's a lot more backyard breeders, if that makes sense. So in the States as opposed to Europe, in Europe, it's like a very noble thing to breed dogs, and they appreciate well-bred dogs. And you'll have, you know, your occasional, there are going to be puppies that spring up everywhere. They're dogs. They'll get loose. They'll do whatever they're going to do. You're going to have accidental litters. But for the people that are breeders over there, they take such high regard in what they're doing and in furthering the breed, right? I mean, you got to think, if you're talking even testing systems, how much farther ahead do you think the German dogs are ahead of our dogs right now because of the system they're in? You know, it's so much more copious than what we do. So, you know, Europe has a lot of things right, and I think that we're starting to pull things from that and bring it over in terms of the testing, and not just in the testing, but what you're starting to see too is a lot of dogs in Europe are sold without breeding rights. So, you're starting to see a lot of that in the States as well now.
That's getting super popular, especially on the British side of that's very true.
Yeah, and you're starting to see that coming to the States now too. And if I ever breed my Gordons down the road, right, that's something that I would look into, because it protects the integrity of what you're putting out as a product, right? So protecting the integrity of the breed. So you know, they've got a lot of stuff right over there, though. They do a lot of genetic testing, and when I got Gordy, it was the same thing. I got 2 pages of genetic testing that Debbie did. I can't tell you guys how good of a breeder she is. It's ridiculous.
Awesome. That's very cool.
What about training dogs?
I was gonna say next.
Yeah, Matt and I are like on the same page here.
Okay.
Where did you learn to train dogs? Like what program? Do you follow a program? Is there a methodology to it?
So my method on training dogs, I keep it small batch. I usually do anywhere from 8 to 15 dogs a year is what I'll do. I keep it small batch. I like turning out like a perfect product if I can. It's hard to turn out a perfect dog. We all know that, but like I try and make sure that my things are consistent, I guess is what I should say. And keeping the integrity of what I'm doing. I like letting birds teach dogs. I like giving dogs a ton of bird contacts. I don't like using pigeons past intro. I like using game birds. I know it's more expensive. I know it's more costly, but, and I'm going to say something that's probably a little bit brash here. Game birds do something different to dogs than pigeons do. And I've seen it when dogs come up here and they smell their first rough grouse, right? And they can be steady to wing shot and fallen pigeons, and they smell their first rough grouse and they go crazy. So I like letting dogs learn on game birds. Like I just had a dog that came up for a month for me to do her intro to gun, intro to birds. And I got her steady through shot and fall in a month, from never seeing birds to getting through steady through shot and fall. But I shot $500 worth of birds over her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She saw 60 something chuckers in a month, So, but I gave her I try to make sure that I do as much of a quality work as I can. So if I had to take and give you guys kind of a background on my ideals on training is I always, before I do anything with a dog, I train them to stop. I train them to stop on a word, whether it's whoa or whatever the owner wants it to be. If they want it to be in a different language, I train the dog to stop. And I always start that out and using it with their food, right? Because think about it, like if you're taking and telling your dog in the morning, what do we always take and tell dogs to do for their food? Tell them to stay, right? Sit or stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I do the same thing. All my dogs, their whoa words are stay. Because when I bring them home as a puppy, it's stay for your food, stay for your food, stay for your food. And I put them back up and stand them there over and over and over again. And what I'm doing is I'm whoa training my dog before they even go out. I'm getting that right out of the way, that my puppy knows to stop his feet before we even go out and start working birds.
And
it makes it so much easier for me to get them steady once we introduce birds.
It's fascinating you bring that up. I tell people that like teaching a dog to be still is like a skill they have to learn if you want an actual like hunting gun dog.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter. I mean, it can be a pointer or it can be a lab, right? Different philosophies, right? You want your dog standing for whoa training versus lab sitting, but a dog that can be still and be calm and be under control, like they have to learn that or they just can't. It's not going to be fun anyway. Anyway, sorry, continue. Okay.
No,
Love
it's just like just like having a lab in the duck blind, right? The first thing you do is start place training them when they come home.
Mm-hmm.
You want to start place training, but it's the same thing with the pointing side of things. Like I want them to train to stop their feet and that they're standing when they do it, because if I'm not using pigeons and I'm using game birds, I want to make sure they're just not chasing that game bird across hell's half country, right? I want them to understand very quickly that they need me to get the bird. So what I do is I take and I train them to stop, and then we work out. And every puppy intro, and you guys know this too, is you put a bird out and let them be up the bird and get excited about the bird. And that's what a puppy intro is on bird. I never, ever, ever introduce gun without the stimulus of a bird. You will never see me. You will never even see me shoot a gun around one of my dogs without a bird. That is probably one of the most concrete one of my beliefs, is that I can't get behind people that use bumpers or anything. Like it's got to be a live bird for me to introduce a gun to a dog. And then after that, it's just repetition and getting the birds in front of their face. And if they mess up, don't shoot the bird, right? Don't take and give them that reward. And so I really let the birds teach the dogs until the dogs understand it. And with my background, especially in special education as a teacher, is I am just like very stubborn, where I can just sit there and let someone mess up over and over and over again, and I don't get upset. And I'll just go again, right? And then finally they get it, right? So just being very patient and letting the birds teach the dogs, and trying your best to make sure that the dog feels supported. I'm not a very rough or hands-on type guy. I can't get behind that with dogs, and I'm not training dogs to go out and do trials or do anything like that. Like most of the dogs I train are going to have to operate in a home setting. So I can't just take and make a jarhead Marine and send them back to someone's house. So I make them able to hunt, but also keep that functional family aspect in mind as well.
When are you training? So, you've got your guiding, in October. You said you're a special education teacher. Are you only doing this primarily in the summer, or you have dogs throughout the year, those 8 to 15 dogs spread out, or when are you primarily having dogs?
So I do a wild bird conditioning circuit in the summer when I'm off from school. So after, nesting season's over, have some people send me dogs for that. But then I also, I will have people send me 1 or 2 dogs at a time. Like I just had a female DKN, short hair, and had her in for a month and a couple days. So I just go by word of mouth, and I really don't believe in keeping a dog for longer than a month at a time. I learned my lesson on that. I feel like if you take in less and you're able under promise and over deliver, right? If you take in less and you do a good job and you do what you're supposed to be doing, you can get a lot of work done in a month with a dog. If I had 25 dogs in, I wouldn't be able to give her $500 worth of birds and spend all that time with her and do all those things. So
I don't know if Tyler was going to ask this, but as a pointing guy, are your personal or for customers, are you force fetching or hold conditioning dogs, or are these not retrieving to hand at all?
I develop natural retrieve.
Okay.
So I do not force fetch my dogs.
Okay.
I do not force fetch clients' dogs. And some people might get on for me for this too, but we have hundreds of years in genetics into these dogs at this time. They're going to naturally do it at some point once they understand what you want.
Sure.
Right? It's just building that confidence to do it. I've only ever come across one dog that didn't retrieve to hand, eventually through taking and doing things. But for the most part, those dogs want that bird in their mouth. And it's just building their confidence to get them to a point to do that. I am not a force fetch guy. I am not. I let dogs develop a natural retrieve on their own. And that's something that, Debbie really took and talked to me about. Because I used to, like with my labs and stuff, I used to take and do that. That's how I learned from my grandfather, right? But then I learned from Debbie and some other people in the industry that like they will develop a natural retrieve on their own. And I just think it's just better for you and the dog, and letting them be excited and letting them develop it on their own. And it's kind of like a personality quirk, right? Like when you go out hunting with someone, and this is why I got into the Gordons too. My short hair bear is like a Marine. He will go, you shoot a grouse, he'll go bring it back, put it in your hand, go right back to hunting. There's just nothing, he's not excited about it, right?
Yeah.
And, some people, that might be the first grouse they've ever shot in their life. Where the Gordons, they develop this natural retrieve, so they grab the bird, they're all excited, their butts are going all over the place as they're bringing it back to you, right? So I learned that the natural retrieve for me is the way to go for the future, especially in training dogs. So I love letting them develop a natural retrieve on their own.
No, it's good. Sure. Matt and I both force fetch our dogs, or have force fetched our dogs. But I mean, it's all different. There's different philosophies, different ways to do things, and clearly, you know what you're doing. My next question for you is, do you run e-collars on your dogs? Do you collar condition your dogs?
I have to e-collar my. I mean, where I live, there's wolves and all kinds of stuff. And
I was gonna ask that eventually. I'd love to pick your brain about that after, but
we could talk about them all day, man. I am not afraid to shy away from the subject.
Yeah.
But
let's save that for a repeat episode. All right, we'll get Jeff back on to talk about wolves.
Okay. Yeah. No, I collar condition all my dogs. I run Garmin's on my dogs. And then touching on the force fetch thing too, like I said, I don't have anything against it. Like I used to do it, but it's just something that in terms of the saving the time aspect of it and letting them do it on their own, it's something that I've just found that works. So, but yeah, I e-collar can train my dogs, and I find that honestly, I think introducing a dog to an e-collar is probably one of the more rewarding and, if you do it the right way, simplistic things to do in training a dog. If you do it the right way, there's people that do it the wrong way, but I've always had really good success with having most dogs collar trained within 1 or 2 sessions. And yeah, I normally tone train them. I don't do a lot of vibrating or anything like that. It's normally tone means come back, check in, see how things are going, come back to me. Very rarely do I ever have to stim a dog. So
sure.
Unless there's porcupines.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
So do you with the tone system, right? I think I'm not an expert on this. I'd actually like to have someone on to talk about this, Matt, for a future podcast episode. But have you heard of the Smith silent command system?
I've never heard of that. No.
No, you actually use like low levels of stim to communicate with your dog, like when you're hunting wild birds.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like one stim is sit, two stims is recall, two stims is quarter, and then three stims is recall. And instead of one whistle is sit, two whistles is quarter the other direction, right? It's that. So go ahead.
So I was gonna say I take in for my short hair and my Gordons, if I beep them twice, that means come back to me, right? If I beep them once, it means go off to the right. If I beep them 3 times, it means go off to the left.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, you're exactly right, and they know.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And that's what I figured you had a communication system with that using that. It was probably
Yeah, and then the other thing that I do too is I'm a big whistler. So if because the Gordons give so much space, so like the Gordons would give a ton of space on grouse, which I think is what you need for when you. If I had to build the ideal grouse dog, it has to give space more than anything. And I have a whistle system where I use my mouth, but I'll give a little. And if my dog is on point, right, but he knows that he's trying to give space on that bird. If I walk, 20 yards in front of my dog and that bird doesn't go up, I know he's trying to give space. I'll give him that double whistle to rework. So it's like an honor system between me and my dog, which I really love. So
that's cool. And yeah, so like define giving space just for folks who may not know what that is or haven't hunted grouse or haven't seen a dog pressure a bird.
So the thing that makes grouse tough to hunt is that they don't like handling a lot of pressure. Everything in the woods wants to eat a grouse. I don't care what it is. It's just like a duck, right? Everything wants to eat a duck and everything wants to eat a grouse in the woods, from every critter on the ground, every, hawk in the sky. So they're one of the most pressured birds that you're ever going to find, right? Especially from four-legged animals, from minks and weasels and cats and the whole 9 yards. So when your dog goes in, they inherently are going to want to take a move away from your dog. And if your dog gets too close, they'll just go up and they'll fly. And so a lot of people call that bumping birds.
Yeah.
What I talk by giving spaces is that, my Gordons, especially my male Gordon, he'll give anywhere from 20 to 25 yards of space on that bird.
Is he on point at that point? Like
correct.
At that time, he's that much.
Yeah,
okay.
Correct. He gives a ton of space. And it took me a while to figure it out because the German dogs will get a lot closer, right?
Mm-hmm.
German dogs will get 10, I'd say a buffer's like 10 yards, right? The German dogs get about 10 yards. And what you risk on that, especially over a long period of time, is that bird's going to get antsy and want to go up, right? Mm-hmm. My Gordons, my conversion rate went through the roof with my Gordons. Because you get in, you've got that buffer zone, and you're able to go in with clients and surround that bird and hunt them. And the whole point of having a pointing dog is to alert you that there's a bird in the area. It's still your job to go hunt the bird. So giving that spacing for people that are listening in, like you want your dog to give 15 to 20 yards to 25 yards on that bird. And the only way they learn that is by seeing wild birds.
That's interesting because I think you're talking about your German dogs, your German short hair. You said at the beginning of the podcast, he's a big running dog, right? He runs big, right? Your Gordons work closer, and they give space to your birds. They're not pressuring them. Whereas you have a dog who's running big and putting more pressure on your birds, there's just less chance the bird's going to be there by the time you get up there.
So 100%. Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, like I said, my short hair, he's big, he runs fast. I mean, Timberdoodles will hold tight. They'll hold tight. They're not going to move. They think they're masters of disguise, right? They're not going to move. But a grouse, I mean, if my dog goes on point 120 yards away, by the time you get there, that bird ain't going to be there, man. It's going to have already figured out its next 3 moves on you. So,
yeah.
Especially crashing through northwest cover trying to get there.
Yeah.
They're going to hear you coming from a mile away too.
Yep.
All right. I feel like we could do a whole nother podcast on Gordon setters. I don't want to go. I have a ton of questions about Gordon setters, but I don't. You're the first guy honestly, that I think I've ever talked to that's owned Gordon setters, Jake.
Dude,
So,
I will make you a believer within 3 days.
You're selling me on it right now. We're easy sales over here. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, we have people on the podcast and we just buy their stuff. I mean, guides come on, we book hunts with them. Matt Davis comes on. We buy vests. I mean, it's just like we're easily sold. But you're making me a believer here. I need to see a little Gordon setter do some work.
Yeah, they're cool dogs, man. And like I said, I didn't really, I didn't understand it when I first got him. And then when I saw him, because I live in the middle of nowhere, man. I live remote. I've got grouse in my yard. And I saw him at like 4 months just pin a grouse under a tree. And we had done very minimal training up to that point, right?
Just natural.
And I was like, what is going on here, right? And then I got another one. And it's the same thing. And then I'm got another, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just going from there now. So it's been really cool. It's been really cool to see that breed. And then not only see what they can do hunting, but like Gordy, I bring him into school with high needs kids or kids that need, emotional support, and he's able to give it. He's got that off switch. So they're just a great breed. They're just I really, really enjoy them.
Yes. So I'm writing this down here. Episode 2, we're going to talk about wolves. We're going to talk about Gordon setters. I want to talk more about Gordy, like your experiences with them, breed, traits, attributes, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And Gordy is a certified therapy dog. The one question I have to ask right now, because this has been on my mind, right? Because you're not force fetching, you're doing natural retrieve, you're believing in natural retrieve. Do you find that certain breeds have just develop that natural retrieve quicker than other breeds? Like, does it come quicker for Gordon setters than it does for short hair pointers?
GSPs.
Really?
GSPs by far, yeah. I mean, we call it pointer circles where they want to run around circles around you with the bird, right? But GSPs and labs, and if I had to give a third, I'm probably gonna say Spinonis, Italian, or Bracos. I've had really,
they look so cool.
Yeah. So, but I would have to say every GSP I've ever like I never taught this last dog to retrieve. She just naturally did it when she was here after shooting birds. So like they naturally the short hairs naturally want to go pick it up because I think it's the versatile aspect in them. You know what I'm saying? I think, with them having that versatile aspect to them coming from the German system, and they are fighting a lot of different things in them. You're supposed to be able to go hunt everything with them, but not only do they want to point it, but they want to go get it, right? So I've noticed that a lot of GSPs really will retrieve naturally on their own if you just give them a good, solid fundamental base for them to do that. So don't pressure them too much, I guess.
Okay, it's interesting. I mean, I think for I don't want to put other people down, but I think, Jake, it's pretty clear you know how to communicate and read a dog. So your ability to teach a natural retrieve is going to
I think the thing is too is that like I think the job that I do at work, what I do in my off season, my whole thing is reading people, right? Like I have kids that have special needs and stuff like that, and every single time I have an interaction with a kid, I got to be able to read them, their body posture, what they're doing. Some of them might not be verbal and stuff. And it's the thing, I hate translating it to dogs because they're people and dogs, but like I have to do the same thing with a dog. I got to be able to read that dog.
Yeah.
And so I think that, me able to take and pull that and put it into another profession is what makes it easier for me to do that with certain dogs, if that makes sense.
It does. I use analogies with dogs and people all the time, so don't feel bad about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally, I try to teach my dogs to have impulse control, and I think it would be great if we as people probably had a little bit more impulse control. But that's a whole other subject. We're not even going to go there.
We could throw that on episode 2, man.
Yep. Okay. All right. We've been recording we're at over the hour mark. Like we're probably at the hour 10 mark. Matt, is there anything pressing you want to ask? You could circle back to anything.
If we're pushing wolves to a different time, then no, I don't have.
Oh, dude, I was so ready. I don't have any further.
I feel like wolves is at least another 30 minutes. At least.
It's kind of like when we have people on and we talk about grizzly bears, we get very distracted very easily. So we'll definitely have to push that out.
Yes, yeah, we had a guest. We've had this guest on a couple of times, but he's a professional videographer, photographer, and he's incredible. He also has a really just interesting life, and so we had him on to talk about taking better pictures of your dog, right? Because everybody wants to take great pictures of their dog. We spent 30 minutes talking about bears in Alaska because he used to guide there. So I mean, it's just we get lost sometimes. Yeah, we'll save wolves. Like we're gonna pencil this in for I don't know. Pencil this in for like probably September. August. Before early September, before you kick into season here, you're gearing up for things.
Yeah.
So with that, then, Jake, the way that we like to wrap up our episodes is with what we call Sky. Are we still calling it Sky Blast, Matt? We're back to Sky Blast questions. All right. So these are questions. Think of it like rapid fire. We're going to fire off questions. They could be related to hunting, dogs, or food, or anything really. We'll ask the questions. Your job is to answer them with the first thing that comes to mind. We'll wrap up with a little bit of fun, and then we'll get on our way here.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
Okay. All right.
I've got Jeff's up here.
Okay.
From his list here.
Yeah.
All right. Side by side or over under?
Side by side.
We talked about your vest. What's your biggest pet peeve that clients do?
When they apologize for their dogs bumping birds. We're all there to get better.
That's a good answer.
Okay. What's one thing you love that clients do?
I love when a client says that they're not going to shoot a bird unless their dog points it, and then they actually hold true to that. I had a guy that had 30 birds go up in a day, and he never shot one last year because his dog didn't point it. Yep, his dog bumped 30 birds in a day, and he didn't shoot one, and the next day he shot one. So when they take in what they say they're going to do, I love that.
Wow.
That sounds like another dog guy to me.
Yeah.
Matt, you got any written down?
That's what Jeff had. I have so you're an avid outdoorsman and have been. Do you have a favorite taxidermy mount in your house? Big animal, small animal, fish?
I've got two. I shot a Nilgai down in Texas, and I've got that as a Euro mount. So it looks like a devil skull. It looks super sweet. And then I've got a mounted woodcock that my buddy at On Track Fowl, he's a taxidermist in Pennsylvania. He gave me as a gift last year when he came up here to hunt. So those are my two favorite I've got.
Sure. What is your shotgun of choice? Like what are you shooting in the field?
Man, I've got a couple different things. But I just inherited, I know I said side by sides, but I just inherited a Browning superimposed that's 4 generations deep on my family. Oh. And so I've been playing around with that quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's been my gun of choice the last 5-6 times I've gone out, just because of the memories and it being 4 generations. So
that's cool. I think that's my usual questions. That's all I've got.
Okay. All right, I just scribbled down a few here. Some new ones based on what we talked about, and just some stuff I'm curious about. First one, as always, one I ask first and foremost is coffee or energy drinks, Jake?
I'm a coffee guy. A little bit of black coffee with some honey in it, man. If you don't drink it that way, it's the superior way to drink black coffee.
With honey, huh?
With honey. Try it. Thank me later.
I have, but then my honey just goops on the bottom of my coffee cup. How do you blend it up in there?
You got to make sure that, I don't know. Kate's got one of those little whisker things, man, where you put it in, it stirs it up. But you got to have
the immersion blender.
Yeah. She's got that, and so that's what I use to blend it up, and then it usually stays pretty good.
Okay, all right. You hear that, Matt? Coffee with honey.
I do. I've done tea with honey, so I'm not too far off. But
okay, all right. All right, Jake. Are you subscribed to any outdoor magazines?
I'm subscribed to Covers, which is the Rough Grouse Society one, Pheasants Forever, and then I'm going to be subscribing to the new American Field magazine. So yeah. Excellent,
fantastic. Our good friend Chris Ingram has helped relaunch that magazine. So
Chris is awesome. A great guy.
Chris is awesome. He's amazing. Love Chris. Super nice guy. Like salt of the earth.
He's a great guy.
He is. I am subscribed to that. I have my copies in my bedroom. I just have to, I need my children to go to bed so I can actually
read them.
Yeah. Okay. Tacos or pizza?
I'm tacos guy.
Ooh, okay. Your favorite tailgate lunch?
Smoked whitefish, some crackers, and a Verner's pop, man. Maybe some grapes or some dried mango in there.
Okay.
I like eating light. I like eating light when I'm out moving.
Okay. Smoked whitefish.
Yeah.
Yeah, lot of firsts on this podcast, Matt.
Yeah. I do a lot of sorry guys, I do a lot of fishing and stuff like that, and so I'll smoke some and make dip and that sort of stuff. So
again, I put cooking down on episode 2 here too. So.
Oh, I love cooking, man.
Oh, all right. You do any waterfowl hunting?
I did a lot when I was younger. We used to take and go out hunt Saginaw Bay, which is in Lower Michigan. My grandfather was a member at a hunting club out there. It was super cool. Fish Point Lodge is what it was called. But I haven't waterfowl hunted in 3 years. Last time I went out was for opener of teal 3 years ago. Just been upland birds nonstop.
Okay. What is at the top of your? This is the last one, by the way. And I'll stop here. What is at the top of your list for bucket list hunts?
Oh man, can I give you 2?
Yeah, of course.
I want to shoot a muskox one day. I know that's a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Well, I know that's a weird thing to say. I want to shoot a muskox one day, and then I would really, really love to take and go hunt blue grouse one day up in the mountains. I'd love to do that too. But a muskox to me, it would be like I want to do it. I think it'd be a great hunt.
That's man, I think that's great. The blue grouse thing is awesome. That would be fun. That's one I don't actually think about, but I would love to do that too. And this is like the podcast episode of first, because we've got smoked whitefish, we've got musk ox,
Gordon Setters,
and Gordon Setters. This is a winner right here. That's a great episode.
Yeah.
Jake, all right, we're at the end here. Why don't you plug your business? Like, where can people find you if they want to book a hunt with you, if they want to learn more about your business? How do they reach out to you? Website, social media, give all that contact information, anything else you want to plug here.
So social media, we're on Instagram and Facebook. It's Superior Upland. And then our website is www.superior dash. So like straight across for people that don't know what a dash is, but so www.superior-upland.com is what our website is.
Okay. Excellent. I would say, I want to say thank you for obviously taking time out of your busy schedule here, right? You've got a lot going on. Hop on this podcast. We appreciate it. Love chatting with you. Love learning about you and your business, about hunting in the UP for rough grouse and the timber doodle. We'll have you back on again, Jake. We'll be in touch. Appreciate your time. Have a great night, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And if you ever want to take and come up to the UP, my door is always open. I always tell anybody if they want to get out, more than willing to take people out. If they just want to come hang out for a couple of days. So.
Yeah, we're going to talk as soon as I hit the stop recording button.
Okay, sounds good.